What's up, PokePals? Verdugo29 back with you again, and it is time for a new season of the PPWC. Get excited. Okay, so changed up a bit. Initially, when I first started this thing, I was the Illinois Ironheads, but unfortunately copyright meant that couldn't happen. Next, I was the San Francisco Dirty Grinders because I just made that name on the fly and stuck with it, but to be honest, it kinda sucks. Let's be real. So, got a new name this season, a new team this season. Last season was okay, but this time around I got a good feeling. Okay, I got a good feeling. Last time around we finished about third, so top 3 was great, but honestly I want to try and get to the top 2 this time. That is our aim this season. I want us to have fun, I want us to try our best. If hacks happens, what are you going to do? But top 2 is where we want to be. I want to beat either Adam or Jack, because I don't want to see them just get top 2 every time, okay? So, if I can describe it. This little guy is going to send us to victory. You know why? Because I am your head coach of the Tampa Bay Frogadiers. Should be a nice banner on the screen there that you can see. But yes, I am the head coach, and I got first pick of the draft this season. I was stoked. Last time I think I had 4th or 5th pick, and it was really tricky with wheel picks and whatnot. I was right in the middle, and I hated it. But this time around, I had first pick, which gave me a wheel pick sometimes coming around back the other way, gave me a lot of wheel picks, and gave me a lot of momentum to pick the stuff that I wanted. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I think that out of the 12 Pokemon I could draft, I'm really happy with 11 of them. And that is very hard for some people to say, because everybody plans like their whole dream draft, exactly what they'd like to see themselves get. And sometimes it doesn't come to fruition, but I was able to get 11 of the 12 that I wanted. I missed out on one that I really wish I could have got, and I ended up panicking and picking a Pokemon that I probably didn't need for the team, but you know what, I'll probably still bring it every now and then, and I think it'll still be able to put in work with certain Pokemon I have. But let's just break things down. I had first pick of the draft. I could get anything. Things that were available in this PPWC include Mega Metagross, because Adam used it last season and it wasn't really that broken, so, you know, there's that. Plus, there was also Hooper Unbound, which could be used because it's just a crazy good Pokemon, but, you know, I think it can also be countered. A lot of priority. Also, its typing isn't that great, because obviously a lot of Pokemon can carry Scarf U-turns, so there is always that possibility. So they were both available, but they weren't what I wanted first, guys. There is a quintessential normal first pick Pokemon that you go for in this setting, and I couldn't resist my first pick being Mew. Now, Mew might surprise a few of you as my first pick when there were so many good Megas and so many other things I could have picked, but the versatility of this Pokemon is second to none. You will not find a Pokemon in this format that can do as much as Mew can. Effectively learning every single TM in the game means that Mew can run so much offense. You can run it with, like, you know, fully defensive Mew, especially defensive Mew. You can run it with Defog, Rocks, Hazards, anything. But you can also run it offensively. And so when I picked Mew, I wanted it obviously to be my first pick, but I also want to make sure that later on I could pick up Pokemon that could not only set up hazards, but also get rid of hazards. That way, I wouldn't have to depend on Mew to be a defogger or a rock setter, and I could be really creative and versatile with the sets that I made and made it more of an offensive threat instead of making it just a constant defensive Pokemon. My aim was to use Mew the best way I know Mew can be used, and that is as an offensive threat, because it is so unpredictable and really hard for my opponents to deal with. So I was super psyched to get that first. That is going to be the captain of the Frogadiers this season. Hopefully Mew can see us through. Oh, I gotta think of names. What would I normally call my Mew? Tom called his Mew Meow. I'm not gonna call it that. I call mine actually Adidas because impossible is nothing, and I don't know. For some reason I call it Adidas. I think I might actually change it to Nike. Yeah, I might change it to Nike, like, just do it! Yeah, we'll call it Nike, the Mew. Anyway, so basically, after I did my first pick, this meant that it went all the way down the other competitors and then all the way back up to me. So a lot of good stuff got taken in that time. I knew I wanted to Mega. My initial plan was to pick up Talonflame and then T-Tar on the wheel, because Mega T-Tar paired really nice with Mew. I thought I could really use Mega T-Tar well. Unfortunately, that was sniped from me, and I realized that if I was going to get Talonflame, it was a huge burden for me then to really get a good Rapid Spinner or a Defogger on my team. And frankly, I didn't really want that, and so in the end, I actually saw 2 Pokemon that hadn't been picked up yet, and I knew there was no way anybody was going to be sniping them because it was up to me again. And I could pick them and throw a huge spanner in the works and finish off what would be an insanely good OU core. So my second pick that I ended up getting was Mega Sableye. Now, I've used Mega Sableye in the past in some Pokemon Lives, and let me tell you, this thing is a savage. It is a really good Pokemon, and I think it's definitely going to have a lot of good synergy with the team. I think I'm going to be able to use it really well. Its defensive stats are off the charts, but it also has a really good offensive move pool. And again, like I said, the aim for this team was to run lots of bulk over all of the different tiers, so that way some of my normal Pokemon that would be seen as defensive, just dead set defensive Pokemon, can be offensive threats. So, I can run like a Sucker Punch, Fire Punch, Power Up Punch, I can run Calm Mind, I can run really versatile sets on my Sableye to make it a very, very menacing threat for my opponents, and I was so psyched. Magic Bounce is a fantastic ability. It basically can prevent a lot of the main Stealth Rockers in the tiers from setting up on me. And it also does protect possible fire types and stuff that I choose later on by having those hazards there. So I was so happy. Mew plus Mega Sableye as well is a really cool little core kind of, but I was really psyched to get Mega Sableye in the team because it was also my primary switch into knockoffs, and I was really happy. But I realized with my first 2 Pokemon, I was adamant that somebody was going to pick up some of the stronger fairy types later on. Like, you got Mega Altaria, you got Azumarill, you got Sylveon. I figured one of them would be picked up, so I needed a good counter. And so my last pick ended up being Ferrothorn. Now, Ferrothorn and Sableye pair perfectly. I think they pair perfectly. One, Ferrothorn can stack all these hazards on my opponent, and if my opponent tries to set up the hazards, I have Mega Sableye that can come in and deal with them. Also, Ferrothorn's main weaknesses are Fire, which is kind of dealt with by Sableye depending on the set, but Fighting, which is completely just mitigated by Sableye, and Sableye's weakness to Fairy is completely stopped by Ferrothorn. Also, Ferrothorn was just a really solid Pokemon to set up rocks and spikes if I want them, and can also be run pretty offensively. But as it turns out, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this because I didn't quickly check, but I'm pretty sure that nobody drafted either Magneton or Magnezone this season, and nobody picked up a Azumarill, Mega Altaria, or Sylveon. Now remember, there are only 8 people in this tournament this year, and you only have 3 OU picks, so it is very limited. But basically, that means that although Ferrothorn doesn't get to stop as much as I initially thought, without Magnezone and Magneton, I can't get trapped, which is fantastic, so I can use it to the best of its ability as a really good wall, and a fantastic partner for Sableye. So the problem was, now that I picked those Pokemon, everybody else got through all their OU picks, and that was great. Everybody got all the Pokemon they wanted, and then it started with UU right down the back. So when it came back up to me, everybody had picked their first UU Pokemon. Now, I'm not going to lie, initially, the perfect Pokemon to finish off the cores that I wanted was Tentacruel, but unfortunately, that got sniped. And so I had to kind of think on my feet, and I'm actually okay with how I thought this one through. I knew definitely what one of the Pokemon I was going to pick was, and that was Infernape. Infernape was my first UU pick, and I was definitely really keen to get this guy on my team. One of the main reasons was it's one of the rare fire types that actually doesn't take 25% from rocks, so that means that I'm not, like I said, super reliant on a spinner to put in massive work, because obviously Infernape can come in and not take as much from rocks, and that was really appealing to me compared to like a Victini or an Entei or a Darmanitan, or even like especially Rotom Heat and Charizards that can come in and take massive damage. So that was really appealing. The other thing was, now that I already had Ferrothorn, I already had a Pokemon that was quite established that could set up rocks for me, which again, like the Mew scenario, meant that I could really run Infernape offensively this season. Now that could be the special set with Nasty Plot, it could be, you know, running Work Up and going both ways, it could be running Scarf, Band, AV, there are so many different sets you can run in Infernape, and that's the thing I've been noticing, is that Infernape has been kind of undervalued in the past, because it can be super versatile. It has a really nice speed tier. Obviously it's not the best defensive Pokemon, but I think that I've already built strong enough cores that what I needed to do now is kind of pick a few offensively minded Pokemon. So I already have Mew as an offensively minded Pokemon towards my team, and definitely Infernape is going to join in there. Now, not saying I can run rocks if I want to. I can run Lead Ape with rocks. I can run so many different sets, but it again is super duper versatile, and that's exactly why I wanted it. So next up was meant to be Tentacruel. Unfortunately, that got sniped, but I was able to actually pick up Empoleon. Now, Empoleon was a bit of a weird one. I didn't really think it through. I could have picked another water type, I'm sure, but I don't regret picking Empoleon because there were a few reasons why, when I looked back on it, it was a really smart choice. First and foremost, Talonflame wasn't picked up, but initially, if Talonflame was picked up, it was a fantastic bird check towards T-Flame. Like, Flare Blitz doesn't really do that much, but one thing I really liked about Empoleon was that not only was it fast, it's also got incredible bulk, and again, it is another Pokemon that can potentially set up rocks for my team, but the real kicker for me that got me over the line was Empoleon has Defog, and this meant that if I wanted to pick up a spinner later on, that's cool, but it also gave me the idea that I can run an offensive spinner and then run the defensive defog on the Empoleon, so it gives my team more options. Obviously, Sub-Patire Empoleon is always a really cool thing to run as well, so again, it gave my team a lot of variety, and Empoleon itself is actually a really strong choice, and one of the big reasons why I wanted Empoleon 2, guys, is because it forms a ridiculously good core with Mega Sableye, and here's why. And I don't know if this is going to give away any strategies against my opponents. They might try and predict around this, but I'm just saying this is looking like a really good. It turned out better than I thought it would, because not only do they basically just cover each other's weaknesses really well, Empoleon's hidden ability is Defiant. So basically, if my opponent wants to try and Rapid Spin, obviously I have Mega Sableye to stop them. But if my opponent wants to go for the Defog, I can go into my Empoleon and get to +2 attack. So then I could run like Scarfed Empoleon, and like someone comes in with Latios or comes in, you know, with Mandibars and gets off this Defog and gives me that +2 attack boost, and I can just go and smack him right in the face because I'm faster and get off a huge amount of damage or kill them and give me a ton of momentum. So definitely a really good pickup in the end, I think, because it can be run offensively, but it's also a fantastic defensive typing, like I said, paired with Sableye, and also puts a little bit of pressure off of Ferrothorn when it comes to hazards, because then it means Ferrothorn can just run the spikes, and Empoleon can run the rocks, and that gives Ferrothorn an extra move slot, and Ferrothorn has a really good move slot too. So, enough of that talk. I've also been meaning to do nicknames. I'm sorry, I'm going to just quickly catch you back up. So Sableye's nickname is Rupees, as you guys should know. Ferrothorn's nickname has always been Thornicles. Infernape's nickname is Ace, as in from One Piece, and Empoleon's nickname, everybody normally goes with Pingu and all that stuff. I'm just trying to think of like penguins and stuff, but I don't really have a nickname yet for Empoleon. I guess I'll just call it like Mumbo. Or is it Mumble? Mumble? The one from Happy Feet. I'll figure out the name for it, but that's what I'm going to call it, probably. Yeah, that's what I'll probably just call it. Anyway, or I'll just call it Happy Feet. Yeah, I'm just going to call it Happy Feet, whatever. Happy Feet. Anyway, it went through everybody again, and then everybody back to me. So I had the last UU pick and the first RU pick. And it came back to me in UU, and I was like, okay, what did I want here? I initially wanted Kyurem, because Kyurem actually had a really nice full range of stats, and Dragonite is a really cool typing, and since I had Empoleon, it'd be pretty cool. But I realized I could really use another good defensive Pokemon. Like, Pokemon with Earthquake right now is a bit of an issue, and there was one Pokemon in the entirety of UU that had slipped through the cracks, and I was like, damn, why has nobody picked this thing up? Like, why is this thing still sitting in in UU? And so my final UU pick that I decided to go for was Donphan. I'm really surprised it dropped that far. I know Donphan is normally quite a high pick, especially for its ability to be able to get rid of hazards, you know, with the rapid spin, as well as having really good offensive pressure. I think it has like base 100 attack or even more. But I was really stoked to get Donphan because it is a fantastic defensive Pokemon. Phenomenal. And again, it is another Pokemon that pairs really well with the likes of Empoleon, and actually pairs alright with Ferrothorn as well. Now, obviously this gives me another rapid spin, or it gives me another hazard removal option. It means that I don't have to rely on Empoleon defogging now because I have Donphan rapid spinning, and Gengar wasn't picked up. I think Cofagrigus was picked up, but I had Mega Sableye, and the only other really important ghost types were like down in PU that nobody's really using, which means that I should be able to safely get off a lot of rapid spins with Donphan, and also having as a good defensive Pokemon is great, but like I said, I have the default possibility on Empoleon, and plus I can set up rocks with Ape, Empoleon, and Ferrothorn, which means that Donphan can be run offensively. Like you can go with the really powerful AV set, you can even go Banded Donphan. This is like a real... my mustache is itchy right now, I don't know why. But yeah, I was really happy with Donphan. What did I normally call Donphan? Like Donphan is like is not really the name I want to think of here. What's the name of Dabba? Dabba? No, Baba. Baba. Yeah, it's that elephant show, Baba. I'm gonna call it Baba because I used to watch that show all the time. I don't know, it's not an Australian thing, but like it was really cool. So Baba, the Donphan. We are 15 minutes through, and we've only just got halfway through this shit. Holy crap! But it'll be worth it, guys. I really want to get into depth about explaining this because it is really kind of important to me that you understand where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? But anyway, the next pick that we went with, I really wanted to pick a really, really strong RU pick, and I genuinely thought this Pokemon was the strongest Pokemon in RU right now, and has the possibility to just tear teams apart, and I felt very confident picking this thing up. And my first pick in RU, the very first pick of all of RU, was Tyrantrum. So T-Rect is coming onto the team. I was so stoked to get this thing. It is seriously a phenomenal Pokemon, and I won't hear otherwise because this thing, its defense is even great. You can even run this thing defensively if you needed to, but its offensive ability now that has Rock Head is fantastic. You can run D-Dance with the Alarm or D-Dance with like Life Orb and stuff. You can blow stuff away with Choice Banded, Head Smash, and Outrage and all that stuff. And because of Azumarill, Sylveon, all those types weren't picked up, like I said, if you don't have a Steel type on your team and I'm going for Outrage, something's about to get destroyed. Like, there aren't really that many switch-ins, so it definitely has the ability to break down my opponent's teams, and funnily enough, it actually pairs really nicely with Ferrothorn. I didn't realize it at first, but looking back, some of the main weaknesses for Tyrantrum, I'd say, would be like Ice types and the Fairy types, which are both completely stopped by Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn stops basically every single Ice type in the game. Even Low Kick from Weavile won't be able to kill Ferrothorn, especially if it's defensive, and obviously Iron Barbs and maybe the possible Rocky Helmet would be super annoying. And Tyrantrum in turn can deal with those pesky fire types that will normally give Ferrothorn a lot of grief. But I'm really excited to have this thing on the team because, like I said, it is an insanely good wall breaker, and especially with a team where I do have a bit of speed in Pokemon like Infernape and Mew and whatnot, but this thing just gives me a lot of wall breaking potential, and also gives me, again, another Stealth Rock option. I know I keep going back to it, but I really wanted a lot of coverage and variety in my team. It is another Pokemon that actually pairs phenomenally well with Mega Sableye, because Mega Sableye basically deals with everything that would hurt Tyrantrum, and so I was so happy to get this thing on my team as my first pick. I knew nobody else could snipe it, and I was just keen as beans to get it, and I know that T-Rex is going to put in a ton of work and could even be leading killer for the season, just for the fact that if I can get up a D-Dance and there aren't any counters left out, it could just be over. It could just be over. Anyway, moving on, again it went all the way down and then all the way back to me, and I was feeling really good. I had the perfect 2 picks in mind. I definitely wanted Aromatisse, and that was because it was really good at dealing with stuff. Unfortunately, Tom, he had 3rd pick, and so obviously he was just 2 ahead of me when it came to the wheel coming back around, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna go Aromatisse. Great. So there went that plan, and this is where things went downhill quick. I thought, I was trying to think of a way that I could make this up, and I was like, okay, you know, what can I bring in that basically does the same job as Aromatisse? I don't know, and I thought maybe I could go with one Pokemon in RU and then one Pokemon in NU that would kind of work together, and I kind of ended up going with that. So on the fly, I definitely knew the first thing that I wanted to pick, though, in my next, my second pick for RU, I really wanted a good Volt switching electric type, and something that paired perfectly with Infernape for a Volt Turn core, and that to me was Electros. not being able to be affected by ground type moves is fantastic, as well as also resisting flying types and being sort of a bird chick, I guess. Electros is a fantastic Pokemon for this team. Not having a weakness is glorious, and it also has really good stats to be able to work a fantastic Assault Vest set, but it can also run other cool stuff like Charge Beam and a lot of other good offensive moves, and its all-round bulk and really surprisingly diverse moveset can make it a really big threat for a lot of teams. And I'm really happy that I was able to pick this up, because there were a few people that were thinking about getting it beforehand, and I kind of had to convince them about other Pokemon that might be better for the team in order for me to pick this thing up. But if I didn't get this, I probably would have had to go like Magneton, which I didn't really want to do because then I would have like 3 steel types, and I was really glad that I was able to pick up this Pokemon and get it on my team. Kim Jong-il, welcome to the team, by the way. Have a wonderful stay, to be honest, dude. Unfortunately, we could not get Dat Thai, though, which was normally the name I give Aromatisse. So, I decided in the end, that was my cup, sorry, I have a goofy mug. Gosh! I decided that my final RU pick, this is the one I regret. Looking back on it now, I didn't really need this thing, but then again, when I look in RU, I don't really know exactly what I had that would replace it, and I still think it'll do good for me this season. But the last pick I decided to go with was Mega Love Disc, which is the Alomomola. I basically knew that it would be able to do the wish job that Aromatisse would do, and I was confident I could pick up a Heal Bell Pokemon in NU to kind of do the other job that Aromatisse is meant to do. But it would have been really nice to grab that Fairy type. Florges actually wasn't even picked up in UU, which is another thing I could have picked up over Donphan, but I just thought Donphan had a much better fit for my team at this stage, and I thought that Alomomola would still be good, because obviously it's another water type like Empoleon. Only difference is that its only weaknesses are all countered by Ferrothorn, so Ferrothorn plus Alomomola actually makes a really nice core, and so I felt a bit better about that. And then I realized that I had one more Pokemon in NU that could actually form a really solid 3 Pokemon core with them, and you know, I didn't feel as bad about it in the end. Okay, it was at the time I felt really bad about it because it wasn't what I wanted. It didn't really fit the structure I was going for, and 2 water types didn't seem like a smart idea. But looking back on it now, I don't regret it too much. I think it should be okay, and I should be able to handle everything that comes from that. The other thing that actually it works really well with is Tyrantrum, funnily enough, because it can deal with those ice types as well, and basically everything that Alomomola is weak to, Tyrantrum isn't weak to, so there's that. Plus Regenerator is always nice. And 165 base HP means that you're basically passing a full wish back to any Pokemon you want. Downside is obviously that it does not have Baton Pass. If it did, I'm sure it would actually be UU, not RU, but beggars can't be choosers. So, finished off my RU picks, everybody went, and then everybody started down at NU. And I was really worried going into NU because I knew exactly what I wanted to get. And I had a feeling I'd get sniped again. And I kinda did. Looking back on it now, I initially thought that I wanted Ordino, but that was because I was expecting to get Aromatisse, and Aromatisse plus Ordino is not too bad. But unfortunately, at the time I wasn't thinking it through, and just before I could change my mind, Adam, who was the second pick of the entire draft, took the Pokemon that I would have taken if I wasn't going to take Ordino, which was Miltank. And so I was like, shit, okay. But I decided anyway, I said, you know what, there's not really any other normal type that I'm going to take in this tier, so I decided to go with Ordino. I call mine I dunno, as in I don't know, and I don't feel too bad about running 2 Regenerator Wish passes in this team because they both can do very different jobs. Like obviously Alomomola can come in and pass the Toxic and that, whereas Ordino is more about like T-Waving and has the Heal Bell, so it's more of like the complete Cleric kind of set. And also Ordino actually forms a phenomenal core with Mega Sableye, which is something I'm really looking to do, where I can have Alomomola working with Ferrothorn, and Ordino working with Mega Sableye, and it gives me varieties in the cores that I can run to deal with certain Pokemon. Again, the other phenomenal thing about Ordino is its moveset is actually crazy. It can learn some crazy moves, and one of them not only being T-Wave, but also being Stealth Rock, which means, again, I don't have to rely on another Pokemon to set up Stealth Rocks. I can run them a bit more offensively, give them a bit more coverage to deal with certain things, so that's going to be really crucial, I feel, for me in this season, is being able to have a bit more creativity with my teams and not make them so one-dimensional like I did last season, where Garchomp was my only possible way to setting up Stealth Rocks. And so if I wanted rocks every season, I basically had to run defensive Chomp, and I couldn't run Scarf, I couldn't run like, you know, Specs or something crazy. I had to kind of be one-dimensional with that, which was kind of unfortunate. But anyway, I was really happy in the end to pick up Ordino. Now to look back on it, Ordino and Alomomola were the two that I was like kind of iffy about. In a perfect world, it's probably Miltank plus Aromatisse. But you know what, being Sniper right at the end of both of those, no big deal. I should be able to make things work with those two. Coming up to my next pick, one thing I knew that would definitely pair well with Ordino, and I think could pair well with the last Pokemon I wanted to, but also I didn't have a Poison type, and initially I wanted Tentacruel, and I kept forgetting. And initially I thought, oh yeah, Garbodor, because Spike stacking. Then I realized that I already had my Ferrothorn, which had all those hazards. And all I really needed was a Pokemon that could set up Toxic Spikes. But also I discovered another really good defensive Pokemon, who I could even run offensively if I wanted to, but it was also another fantastic defensive typing and another perfect pair for Sableye. And so my second to last NU pick was Weezing. These nuts is my Weezing, and I was really surprised I was able to pick him up too. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to, but it's definitely another Pokemon that has fantastic bulk, especially on that defensive side. It can just eat up hits for days, but you can run Assault Vest and crazy stuff. It can run the Clear Smog, it can run T-Spikes, it can run Explosion. It has moves like Fire Blast and Thunderbolt, so it does have a lot of variety, but it can also be very strong defensively, as everybody should know. Like Pain Split is great, Will-O-Wisp is another fantastic move, and it definitely has a lot of possibilities, and that's why I thought it was probably the best Poison type that I could pick for my team, and I was really happy that I was able to actually pick this thing up. So it came to my last pick. Now we're all allowed to do like one redraft pick at the end of this thing if we just picked a Pokemon that we weren't too sure about. And initially I was actually about to go to sleep because it was like 5 in the morning, and I was really tired, and just jokingly I was like, oh lol, Frogadier, and I went to bed. And I just said, you know what, nobody's going to pick Frogadier, just take it, whatever, it's a joke, it's my mascot, whatever. And I realized though, at the end of all the drafts, I said, you know what, I'm probably just going to redraft my last pick, because obviously, like, Frogadier, this is a bit of a joke pick, and I'm just going to pick up whatever I saw that maybe I could have picked up at the time, so I didn't waste anybody's time. Realizing though that I was actually the last pick, so it really didn't matter at that stage, no matter what I picked. But looking back on it, one thing that nobody picked, and it was the perfect thing. Like, you know when things just kind of work out in a way, and like although things didn't go to plan initially, things kind of worked out. The last Pokemon that I was actually able to end up picking was Gramble. So I was able to pick up Helga, the Gramble, and I was stoked to get this as my last pick. I did not think it would go that far down. This thing also has Heal Bell. I think this thing also carries Stealth Rock. I could be wrong. But Helga is a fantastic Pokemon. It's another defensive typing. It has the Intimidate, which is a fantastic ability, and it also has really good offensive pressure behind it. Being a straight Fairy type as well is very, very nice, and I think this thing is definitely going to be a threatening Pokemon for my opponents to deal with. And also gave me a Fairy type that I really wanted. The only type that I didn't get out of all the Pokemon in this draft was a Bug type, which I guess maybe over a Alomomola I could have picked a Selgor, but I really don't think a Selgor would have fitted on this team. A Scavalier could have been an option, but somebody picked it, so, you know, whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. Like, I'll take every type but Bug, and honestly Bug type in this kind of format's kind of but Gramble was fantastic. It's defensively great. It can even run that nice offensive moveset. It can run the Toxic Orb, Quick Feet, I think. Yeah, is one that can run. So it can be a bit strong late game. So it's definitely, again, something that you can watch out for. But I think that it was just a good Fairy type. Like, the only other Fairy types down there weren't really worth getting. Like, I didn't really want to get like a freaking Spritzy. It didn't really seem like a good pick at the time, and so I was really glad that I was able to pick a Gramble. I'm sorry, Frogadier, that I couldn't get you as my final pick, but you know what, you will be the mascot of the team throughout the whole thing, and the captain always loves you no matter what. But that is basically the draft, guys. I feel really good about it. I think the diversity is great, and I think this time around, last season I was talking about, making sure I made really diverse and versatile picks, and I'm sure that I did, but I think, this time around, the picks that I made were a lot smarter. I definitely thought them through a bit better this time around, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think that they can definitely be really strong picks for me throughout this season, but let me know what you guys think. Obviously, I've just talked your ear off for half an hour, and if you've sat through this, kudos to you, to be honest. That is a fantastic effort. Pats on the back for all of you people. I genuinely feel this season that things could be better. I think I'm going to be taking a lot more in depth to my team building, trying to explain the certain things that I'm trying to do with my team, and how I want them to be run and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, the main thing I just want to be doing is going out there, having fun, just versing my mates in Pokemon, and if I get the victory, that's awesome. If I don't, then that's just unfortunate. But if it's a good battle, that's all I'm really looking for. I'm looking to competitively battle with this team and see how far I can go. But let me know what you guys think. Tell me, this is the question, I guess, of the whole thing. Who do you think is not only my best pick, who do you think is going to be my best defensive Pokemon, my best offensive Pokemon, my overall MVP, and who do you think, let's be honest guys, who do you think is not my best pick? Out of all the ones that I picked, who do you think is not the best pick and why, and who do you think I could replace it with? Because obviously this video should go up after the draft analysis from the actual other people on PokePals World, so let me know what you guys think about the potential Pokemon I could have picked up in that tier. And let me know if maybe there was something I missed, because obviously there are redrafts by round 4, and if maybe you've mentioned, oh, in RU you could have got this over Lomomola, maybe I'll consider it. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for sitting through that. You're absolute champions. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Make sure you also go check out the channel. Doing videos hopefully like every day or so, trying to get as much stuff up as we can. It can be hard sometimes because I'm busy with life. I have things that I have to do, but I do try and get up as much video content for you guys as I can. Make sure you also go check out everybody else's channels that are in the tournament. There will be recaps and stuff done on this channel, but basically I'm going to be uploading my stuff here too, because obviously I am basically PokePals World. So thank you guys so much for watching. Keep on being PokePals. Verdugo29 of the Tampa Bay Frogadiers signing out. Go Frogs!